How are you feeling, darling?
Not all that good, Blackadder. Made a note in my diary on the way here. Simply says, bugger.
Hi, my name is Mike and welcome to my vlog about football in general and Burnley FC in particular. A vlog that this week is as joyful as Noel Gallagher in the middle of an away end full of people performing the Poznan. Or come to think of it, as joyful as an away end where in the middle of it Noel Gallagher is performing songs from his latest album. Well, the Clarets are officially down in relegation that, to be perfectly blunt, we had a feeling might be coming with the moment we lost so badly to Villa at home. 2-1 away at Spurs means that Clarets are officially, mathematically and finally relegated regardless of the result this weekend against points deduction Forest. It's been inevitable, and yet again the Clarets lost the same way they have been losing all season. Took a lead, couldn't hold it. Again. Conceded a goal coming from the acres of space left wide open where the left back should be. Again. Didn't have the legs towards the end of the game. Again. Over and over we've seen the same mistakes from sometimes different players, sometimes the same players. But it feels like even though some of them have learned, they've not learned fast enough. And some of the formations and the tactics haven't changed. The fact that we are yet again conceding goals from that left-hand side is just ridiculous. We conceded 2 at least at home to Newcastle and could have been 3 or 4 more, and then we do it a week later at Spurs, and we're going to keep doing it. It's the definition of madness. I was listening to the excellent No Nay Never podcast today, and one of the contributors, I think it was Robbie or Rich, I apologise for whichever one I got your name wrong, was saying that he was annoyed, and I got it. I got it completely. It's annoyed because ultimately this relegation is on us. It's on the club. The club, the players, the team, whoever, have been given enough lifelines. They've been thrown enough lifelines during games, even down to the 2 closest rivals for relegation getting points deductions, and yet again they could not capitalise. They threw away every single lifeline they had been given. But the fallout afterwards has been kind of annoying, not because of what was necessarily being said on a specific level by people who do know something about Burnley FC or don't know something about Burnley FC, but the manner and the tone and the language that is used. Throughout my career I've kind of written for my own entertainment, I've performed stuff for my own entertainment. This vlog is here for my own entertainment, and the words I use in this vlog are important. I choose them carefully, which is why occasionally, if you go back to other vlogs, I've said that some of the language used by people in football and by fans is loaded, and the words that people use are wrong. For example, the word embarrassing, when a fan says something is embarrassing, it's kind of like, it's a very loaded way of describing something. You wouldn't use the word embarrassing in that kind of context and expect it to mean the same thing. But some of the words that have kind of been used, not just over the weekend or after the weekend, but also through the season, are just plain wrong. And the ones that I keep seeing over and over and make me angry are naive and pragmatic. The team was too naive. Company's tactics should have been more pragmatic. Naive and pragmatic are words that do not mean, to use the quote from The Princess Bride, you keep saying those words, I do not think they mean what you think it means. And what it comes down to is, were the team relegated because they were naive and pragmatic? And the answer is no. Sander Berge, our player of the year, given the ball away at least twice, conceding goals that have cost us points. Wolves away, Man United away. There's 2 that come straight to mind. Aaron Muric, again, conceded goals twice that have cost us points. Everton away, Brighton at home. Was that because they're naive? Was that because they weren't pragmatic enough? No, they made mistakes. John Bayer fell over. Cost us the game against Crystal Palace. Should he have been more pragmatic? Or should he have not fallen over? Have we been on the wrong end of VAR decisions and we could relitigate those? Now, these aren't excuses. What I'm saying is, if these players don't make mistakes and those VAR decisions go our way, then we stay up. But we're still naive and not pragmatic enough. The problem is that, words like naive and pragmatic, there is a thing I call sort of pundit speak. Football has a language, and that languages come from players or ex-players who are sat on sofas that we see on our TVs, they're sat in commentary boxes. And they try to use words, and they use those words so very, very badly. And naive and pragmatic is one of them. The classic example of football speak not meaning what it should do is when a striker misses a sitter. And the commentator goes, oh, he'll be disappointed with that. Disappointed? I'd be bloody livid. I'd be angry. I'd be upset. I don't be disappointed. Garth Crooks is actually the worst example, or perhaps the best example I can think of this. Garth Crooks, a man who cannot say anything without trying to think or trying to make you believe that it has been handed down on stone tablets to him at the top of a mountain by God himself. Even when it's the most banal and obvious of statements, let alone plain wrong. I have a famous Garth Crooks moment back in the World Cup in 2002. England were playing their final group game, and before group games, the final group game, you always know the permutations of what a team needs in order to qualify for the next round. And England needed a draw. England then went and got the draw. And Garth strode on the BBC live in front of an audience and went to Sven-Göran Eriksson and said, I can confirm that England have made it to the next round. Right. Nothing's official, including qualification for the knockout stages of a World Cup, until Garth Crooks confirms it. But anyway, he's not alone. There is this weird thing going on, and it's happening this week. I'm kind of getting away from Burnley this week, but it's nice to be kind of getting away from Burnley. I'm trying not to think about relegation. I'm going to do a kind of an in-depth kind of analysis of that, next week and possibly over the next couple of weeks after that. But there's been an interesting thing this week around the media, and it's this media have gone from telling or providing pundit speak and defining the language that other fans actually talk to each other with, like naive and pragmatic and such isn't cut out to be a Premier League manager. It's like, how the hell do you know? How the hell does Chris Waddle know that? He ain't cut out to be any kind of manager. Garth Crooks hasn't been a manager. Gary Neville hasn't been a manager. Alan Shearer was a manager and failed. And then he turns around and says, such and such is not cut out to be a Premier League manager. But anyway, the media have gone from that kind of language where they're telling you how to talk about the game. This week was the third example that popped in my head of the media telling you what to think about the game, how to be a fan. And it's to do with the Spurs game. Now, as I record this, Spurs play Man City. If Spurs win, they have a chance to get the Champions League, but also they have a chance of handing the title to their bitter rivals, Arsenal. And there has been this debate in the media about whether fans should want Spurs to win or not, because it's about, they'll give the title to Arsenal. And fans should be thinking this, and fans should be thinking that. And it's not the only instance of that this season. At the start of the season, they brought in, the new rules around time wasting, where time wasting during a game was going to get added on, and, 10 minutes might be added on at the end of a half, and so on and so forth. And fans were happy about that because we pay to see the product. We were the ones getting cheated. But there were a load of media articles saying that it's a bad thing, that this is not good, it's going to lead to injuries, it's going to lead to this, it's going to lead to the other. Well, it hasn't. And, like I say, we've started getting our money's worth. Another instance, the Champions League coefficient. England had a chance of getting the fifth and extra Champions League place if certain English clubs did well in Europe. Therefore, English football fans like myself, you watching this, should be cheering on English clubs in Europe in order for another one of them to get a Champions League place. That is what you as fans should be doing. No, piss off. Why should I cheer on something that is going to increase the inequality within the Premier League, let alone the game as a whole? Why should I be cheering that on? Why should I be happy about that? I mean, these clubs who are in the Champions League already get more of the money, more of the TV money, they get the European money, they get the prize money, and I'm supposed to want more of that? But that's what happens. The media have now started telling you what you're supposed to think. And that's, I guess, kind of why it's so tiring a season such as this year, or this season is so tiring, because it's bad enough watching the team as it is. It's bad enough watching the performances. It's bad enough seeing the same mistakes. That's frustrating enough. But then you get these voices telling you what to think. And that's part of the reason why I do this vlog, because I get kind of, feedback and comments. And they're really, really good comments, and I really appreciate them. And people say it's slightly different, and that's what I really enjoy about it, is the fact that I try to avoid that pundit speak, that cliche. I try to give this idea of what it is to be a fan. Because when you're watching this stuff pumped in through your TV screens, telling you how you're supposed to behave, what you're supposed to think, and then giving you advertising of people who quite clearly have never been football fans in their life pretending to watch a big Champions League game, it just adds up to the sort of fakery that is the Premier League. One of the things we're told is that the 3 clubs that have been relegated are the worst clubs to have been promoted out of a bad championship. Because that's an easy way out. That's an easy way to avoid looking at the Premier League. A Premier League that is about to be won by Manchester City for the 4th year out of 5. 4 in a row, I think. For O'Reilly, I don't care. And avoiding asking questions about how Manchester City, after winning a treble last year and winning titles for the last few years, and having Champions League semi-finals this year and cup finals, can look fresh as a daisy. Well, credit to Pep and his medical team. They do really work miracles and always have. How can Manchester City beat an Arsenal team? I'm not a fan of that Arsenal team, but they are beating an Arsenal team that has won more games than the Invincibles did. Yet Man City are still likely to win the league. They've avoid asking how Manchester United and Chelsea can waste so much money and yet still be 6th. They avoid asking questions about how Everton and Forest ended up hitting the financial fair play rules and falling foul of the shenanigans around that. Because those are hard questions, but those are hard questions that fans, like you, me, we have to ask them, and we talk about it ourselves, but we'll never actually hear proper debate about that in the media, because the media is just selling you something. It's telling you how to speak, and until recently, it's telling you how to think. So, yeah, we're relegated. We get a year away from it. Well, hopefully it's just a year. And to be honest, I'm glad to be out of it. It's been a bad season. It's been a terrible season. But the noise hasn't helped. And I'm glad to be back in the Championship. Hopefully we'll be more successful. But also, I'm glad to be away from the pundit horseshit. Till next time. And Forest is the last game of the season. It'll be a laugh. If you see me before the game or after the game, say hello. It'll be not so much a celebration, but it won't be a funeral. It won't be a wake. You always go and support your team. This time the pressure's off. We can just go and there's a match, fair play, end of a season, put it in the bin, move on to next time. Till next time, up the Clarets. If you've got any comments about this video, please feel free to leave them down below and I will respond where I can. If you liked it, click the like button. And if you like what I do, have a look around the rest of the channel and click subscribe to be notified when I produce new content.